$6 a gallon. That's what California drivers are paying right now. And that's a 30% spike since February. And everyone I talk to is focused on that number. I get it. It's painful. But here's what I actually want to talk about, because this is the one thing most buyers and sellers are completely missing. Everyone right now is watching the Fed. They're checking the mortgage rates every morning, waiting for the next move, trying to figure out if this is the month that rates finally go down. And rates matter, don't get me wrong. But $10 a gallon gas, that could quietly kill more real estate deals this year than any Fed decision. And most buyers aren't even thinking about it. This isn't just a gas price story. This is a real estate story. And by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly which neighborhoods are turning into red flags and which ones are holding their ground, and what you should do right now, whether you're buying, selling, or just investing. Let's start with the facts, because understanding the why is the key to understanding the real estate impact. Over the last 50 years of random terrorist aggression, on February 28th, the U.S. and Israel launched a military strike on Iran. Iran's response was effectively to close the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway that, according to the International Energy Agency, carries about 20% of the entire world's oil supply. The IEA called it the greatest global energy security challenge in history. California felt this immediately, and it hit harder here more than anywhere else in the country, because we already pay more than any other state. Our special fuel blend requirements, our regulations, and our refineries closing over the past few years are what makes the global energy spike hit harder in California. Right now, we're about 601 a gallon statewide. Diesel, the fuel that moves everything you buy, is already at 750. That in and of itself is up 47% since the war started. Now, here's the number I want you to sit with. A Stanford economist told Cal Matters that if the Strait of Hormuz stays closed for another 60 days, crude oil could climb to $40 or even $80 a barrel. And an extra $40 equates roughly to about $1 at the pump. California is an energy island. We have no pipelines coming from anywhere else in the United States, so our oil has to come from two places, either on ships from the Middle East or on trucks from other states. This is not ideal. So no, $10 a gallon gas is not the worst case scenario headline. It's a real mathematical plausible scenario, and Southern California specifically is more exposed to that scenario than anywhere else in the country, because this place is literally built around cars. There's no real public transit backbone holding this region together. The subway covers a small slice of LA, and most people here drive. That's just the deal. Which means when gas spikes, the pain doesn't spread evenly. It lands hardest here in Southern California, and lands hardest on a specific type of buyer. Think about who moved to Palmdale, Paris, Hemet, Lancaster, Castaic, or even communities further out along the 118 corridor over the past few years. They did what a lot of people have done. They drove until they qualified. Home prices closer in were just too high, so they drove further out. They got into a house, which was the goal, but they traded proximity for affordability. The trade-off worked fine at $3.50 a gallon. It's okay at $5, but at $10, it starts to fall apart. Let me show you why this math, when you see the actual numbers, it clicks differently. Take a two-car household. Both commute about 60 miles of driving per day, 5 days a week. At $5 a gallon, that works out to approximately $400 to $500 a month on gas. That's not nothing, but when that price doubles, you're looking at $800 to $1,000 a month, depending on how far you drive. That extra $400 to $600 a month every single month before you pay a single bill really hits hard. I mean, keep in mind, the average bankruptcy is aroused by just $600 a month deficit. And here's what makes this so dangerous for real estate. That number doesn't show up on a lender's debt-to-income calculation. The bank isn't accounting for it, and the underwriter isn't flagging it. But the buyer feels it just the same. And eventually, and this is the key, it changes what we're willing to pay for a house. Gas works like a hidden cost increase that quietly shrinks your budget without anybody officially acknowledging it. And then there's the problem of the mortgage rate. Mortgage rates had dropped below 6% for the first time since 2022. And that was a great affordability window. But what happened next? February 28th happened, right? And rates jumped almost 0.5% immediately. They're now sitting at around 6.5, according to HouseWire reports. And the Fed is just not looking into making a change in June. It's really around a 2.4% chance that they'll actually drop rates in June. Most people are expecting a drop not until at least December. CNN did the math, and on a $450,000 home, a buyer today is paying over $1,100 more per year over the lifetime of the loan compared to someone who just locked it in 1 month earlier because of the war in the Middle East. The Bankrate senior economist put it plainly. Spring has not sprung for the home selling season this year. It's essentially a stuck or a frozen market right now. Here's the layer underneath all of that. And this one might be the most damaging of all. When gas goes up, groceries go up. When groceries go up, utilities go up. And when everything goes up all at once, people start to put expenses on credit cards. Credit cards rates average around 21 to 22% right now, and people are running up balances just to cover the basics. And here's why that is a real estate problem. The moment your credit utilization climbs, that's the amount of credit that you actually have and the amount they've actually used, your FICO score gets hit. And that number is right around 30%. And as soon as that FICO score gets hit, you're not qualifying for that same mortgage anymore, or the rate goes up. One credit expert told MN News the conflict isn't just pushing mortgage buyers to a 6.3% rate. In many cases, the buyer's credit damage prevents qualification altogether. So we're not just talking about a slower market. We're talking about people who were going to buy this spring who now just can't get approved. And that's a massive shock to the system. And it's happening quietly, one credit card statement at a time. Now let's talk about what all of that actually does to the behavior of a buyer, because the market move happens before the data catches up. And if you understand that, you can step ahead of the game and see what's coming. Buyers don't send a letter to a neighborhood and tell them they've given up. They don't call the listing agent and say, hey, we've decided to commute is just too far. They just stop showing up. The open houses get a little quieter. The offer deadlines come and go without multiple bids. And the seller sits there wondering what the heck is going on. And the answer is already 3 months old by the time the data catches up. What changes specifically is what I call commute tolerance. When gas is cheap, the buyer will stretch. They'll say, okay, 45 minutes every day, that's manageable. We're getting a bigger house, a bigger yard for a lot less money. But when the gas gets expensive, that mental calculation changes fast. That same 45-minute commute now has a real dollar figure attached to it on every single trip. Buyers start pulling back. They redraw the circle that they originally had drawn to find a house and really tighten up their expectations considerably. The buyer who would have driven 45 minutes is now really considering a 25-minute drive, which cuts their expense on fuel almost in half. I had a client not too long ago who stretched pretty far geographically to get into a home. It made sense at the time, but we were mid-escrow and commuting costs were already climbing, and I could hear over the phone that out loud during our calls that this was becoming a point of panic. Now, it was not truly panic, it was doubt, and the deal got done, but it definitely is something you need to think about. You need to understand what those numbers are before you ever close contract. So tighten up that circle if you're in contract already, and do the math so you at least know what you're getting into. When people tighten up that circle is where the ripple starts to affect the whole market. The outer suburbs see it first, fewer showings, longer days on market, and sellers making that first price cut. Then those reduced prices become a new comp, and suddenly every home in the zip code is seeing a hit on their value based on that baseline. One buyer's decision not to drive that far doesn't just affect one house. It drags a whole area down. We're already seeing it in Palmdale. Specifically, prices are down 5.2%, and that's just from March alone. And the median house price is $512,000, with homes taking about 45 days to sell before the summer gas crunch has even hit. And if you're an investor, you need to pay attention to this too. Rental properties in a long commute area are really, really suspect here because renters have much quicker options than somebody who owns the home. Tenants do the math quicker, just like buyers do, and they can make moves much, much faster at the detriment of an investor. Okay, I've been pretty heavy on the problems, but let's talk about that opportunity that we are seeing in this market. The flip side of the buyers pulling back in those outer rings is the demand doesn't disappear, it just relocates. And it relocates toward anything that doesn't require long, expensive drive to justify. Walkable neighborhoods, areas near Metrolink or metro stations, communities where you can actually get somewhere without burning a tank of gas. That's where the demand pressure is going. California actually made this more interesting with SB 79, a law signed last August that starts on July 1st of this year. This law forces local governments to allow 7 to 9 story residential buildings near major transit hubs. The timing couldn't be more relevant. The gas right now is super painful, and proximity to transit becomes a genuine premium concern, not just a lifestyle preference. Urban cores, neighborhoods near light rail and LA downtown areas, these are where you could see demand hold up actually increase as the outer suburbs soften. Places you might have written off expenses as too high 6 months ago could be worth a second look because the competition for this is coming from a smaller pool of buyers right now, and the market is pulling inward. That creates negotiation room closer and what that wasn't there before. New construction is also reshaping itself in real time. Diesel at $7.50 a gallon means higher costs on every truck delivering lumber, delivering concrete, and every single appliance. Builders are compressing margins or passing those costs along. Expect few newer projects, longer timelines, and higher prices on what does get built, which means existing inventory in accessible locations holds better value than those remote ones. Here's the homework as a buyer I want you to do before you do anything else. Pull out what you're spending on your gas right now, then run the same numbers at $8 a gallon and $10 a gallon. Add it to your mortgage just like it was property taxes or insurance. If that combined number is still working, you're in good shape. If it doesn't, that house isn't as affordable as your listing price might make it seem. And the bank won't tell you this. I am. Treat your monthly commute just like property taxes. It's a real line item, and it cuts into your budget just like anything else. If you're already in escrow right now, do this math. It doesn't mean that you need to cancel the escrow immediately, but you definitely need to know what you're getting into. And the mortgage rate side, volatility cuts both ways. Rates have been jumping around and dipping this week and next week, and economists are really hoping to see some relief in the short run. So if you get yourself in a place where you can lock in a low rate right now, take advantage of it because you might be able to get in one of those little dips that you weren't expecting. All right, don't wait for $10 gas to be official before you take some of these things into account. By that time it's on the news every night, the market will have already moved on. All right, if you're selling in a long commute suburb, this is not the time to get aggressive on the price. The pool of buyers that were willing to buy in that area is dwindling every single day. The value proposition that made your neighborhood attractive at that cheaper price, bigger house, or more land just isn't holding up as hard as it used to. So keep that in mind when you're setting that purchase price. Sellers in those zip codes who price like it's still 2023 are going to sit. And the longer they sit, the worse the comps are going to get. If you're in a walkable urban neighborhood near transit, you've got some leverage, so take advantage of it and price accordingly. Don't give it all away, but make sure that you are able to close the deal. Gas prices don't just hurt at the pump. They quietly redraw the map where people are willing to live. Southern California feels that faster and harder than almost anywhere else in the country because the car here is just not an option. We've been through this before. In 1973 and the Iranian Revolution in 1979, each time the real estate market absorbs the shock, but it affects people in different areas. And there are real winners and there are real losers. Neighborhoods that held their value were the ones that didn't require a long drive to justify their buying them. The Strait of Hormuz is still effectively closed and the war effectively still going on, and mortgage rates are still climbing. Every week, this continues and the pressure builds. If you're a home buyer or a home seller or just an investor, you need to watch the market. The gas pump is now a leading indicator for real estate, which is something that most people aren't even thinking about. So watch it closely. And if you want help figuring out where those best areas are, leave a comment below because I'm really curious on what your tolerances are on actually buying. Like if you're buying, are you willing to drive that extra hour and spend that gas just to get yourself in? So subscribe if you want to keep track of what the developments in this area, and I will talk to you soon.